memory allocated during the execution, that is at the run time of the program. Especially memory can be allocated here. Here we have two types of data. One is data type of type integer format and one more is star next. Here it shows address, reference of another variable. To define the member function, we need scope resolution operator, and with that the scope resolution operator will tell you exactly that particular function belongs to which class. Welcome back to one and all. Myself, Vasanta, lecturer in Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, Pre-University College, Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. Today, we have to start with the third session of pointer chapter. Whereas in the previous session, you came to know regarding what you mean by pointer arithmetic. That means which are the operations we can able to perform in pointer and which are the operation is not possible to perform on pointer. That is, we can able to add one integer value, we can able to subtract one integer value, we can compare two pointers when they have same data type, we can assign from one pointer to another pointer when they have same data type. And which are the operation is not possible, that is, we cannot able to add two pointers, we cannot able to subtract two pointers, we cannot able to perform multiplication of two pointers, and we are not able to perform division of two pointers. Then operations on pointer, pointers and array, that is, in pointers it stores address of another variable, whereas in array it stores address of only the first variable. Array of pointers, that is, it stores a collection of address. Pointers and string, memory allocation of pointers, and under that you have studied new as well as delete operator. Whereas on today's class you will come to know the difference between static and dynamic memory allocation. Then what do you mean by free store as well as memory leak? Then what do you mean by self-reference structure, pointers and objects, pointers to object. Okay, now one by one we'll explain. First we'll discuss about the difference between static and dynamic memory allocation. Whereas in the previous session I told you, in static memory allocation can be performed at the time of compilation, whereas dynamic memory allocations can be performed at the time of run time. Whereas here in static, before coming that variable, the memory is fixed for that. Whereas in dynamic, whenever the variable requires the memory, only on that time the memory can be allocated. That is memory allocation during compilation time in static. But when you come on dynamic, memory allocated during the execution, that is at the run time of the program, especially memory can be allocated here. No memory allocation or deallocation actions are performed during execution. It will not going to allocate or deallocate any memory space at run time, that is on execution time. Before execution only, that is at the time of compilation only, memory can be allocated as well as deallocated, especially in static memory allocation. But when they come on dynamic, memory bindings are established and destroyed during the execution time by using new and delete operator. It means that at the run time, memory can be allocated as well as deallocated. Whereas here, in the static format, at the compilation time only, whereas here at the run time, allocation and deallocations can be performed. Variable remains permanently allocated. Whatever memory we allocated, that memory is permanent by nature here. Permanently it is allocated if the variable is present or not. Whatever may be, the space is fixed for that variable only. But when we come on dynamic, allocated only when the program unit is active. Whenever we required space, only on that time memory will be allocated. Afterwards, after completing the work, the same memory can be allocated for other variables. It means that active time only memory can be allocated. Afterwards, that same memory can be allocated for other variables. Implemented using stacks and heaps, here implemented using data segments. These are the major difference between static memory allocation as well as dynamic memory allocation. Next, we'll discuss about what do you mean by free store as well as memory leak. Free store is a pool of unallocated memory heaps given to a program that is used by the program for dynamic allocation during execution. I can say it is a pool of unallocated memory. That is nothing but free store. It is a pool of unallocated memory. Then what do you mean by memory leak? For example, we allocated some memory space for some particular variable. After processing, after doing all the calculation, if the variable is not going to, if that space is not going to deallocate, then there is a waste of memory. That waste usually can be called as memory leak here. That is, if the objects that are allocated memory dynamically, we are not deleted using delete, the memory block remains occupied even at the end of the program. Such memory blocks are known as orphaned memory blocks. It means that consider for some variable we allocated memory. This is the memory place allocated for that variable. After doing the calculation, after doing all the work, if the space is permanently, if it is allocated, if the space is not deleted, then there is a waste of space. That waste of space is called as memory leak. This orphaned memory blocks, when increases the number, causes adverse effect on the system. This situation is called memory leak. Now is it clear? Only one thing you have to remember. Whereas free store means it is a pool of unallocated memory. Whereas memory leak means if the variable memory is not deleted after completing the process also, then that space is never given by other variables. On that case, we will get the memory leak situation. Next, we will discuss about self-reference structure. What do you mean by this self-reference structure? Whereas self-reference structure are structures that contains numbers, that is a pointers to another structure of the same type. First of all, structure is a collection of heterogeneous elements, whereas array is a collection of homogeneous elements. For example, struct node, here we have two types of data. One is data type of type integer format and one more is star next. Here it stores address, reference of another variable. That means one will store integer format and one will store the address, that is new operator, referencing the next structure of the same type node. This is nothing but structure. Now is it clear? Next we will move on pointers and objects. Whereas object is a identifiable entity which having some characteristics and behavior. Whereas address is a variable, it stores the address of another variable. Then the pointers pointing to the objects. The pointers pointing to the objects are referred as to be object pointers. Declaration of pointers to object can be performed at class name, then star object pointer. Usually we are creating a object for a class, is it no? On that time, before creating the object, there you have to write star operator. Then for example, employee is the class name, star EPTR. That means here it is a pointers, especially object pointers here. When accessing the members of a class using an object pointers, then we are using the arrow operator, especially we are using arrow operator. This is the arrow operator is used instead of dot operator. For example, if I want to access get data function, then how we are accessing object dot get data function we are using. If it is object pointer, then instead of dot operator, we have to use arrow operator. Object arrow, that is minus sign, and then you have to write one greater symbol, then which is the function, get data function. Like this, we have to call the functions here by using this arrow operator. Now is it clear? Pointers to object with an example program. Create a class containing the following data members: register number, name, and then fees. Totally there are 3 data members. Here one is a register number and one more is name and one more is fees. 3 data members. Also create a member function to read and display the data using the concept of pointers to object. It means that we have to read these three datas as well as we have to print the datas. Only we have to read and print the datas here. That we'll explain with the program now. Consider first we have the header file #include iostream.h. This is the supporting header file for cin as well as cout function. In the program we are using cin as well as cout. For that, this is the supporting header file. Next, one more header file #include conio.h. This is the supporting header file for clear screen as well as getch function. Then here for a student we are inputting read, especially register number, name as well as fees for a student. Then we are printing that values. That's why here the class name we are given as class name is student. In private section we are declaring all the three data members. One is register number of type integer, name of type character. In the bracket, if you're going to write 20, it means that maximum for a name it will take 20 characters. And fees we are declared as a float data type because there is a probability to get the fractional part. Then in public section, we are taking only two functions. One is get data function and one more is display function. Here we are not doing any calculation. We just input all the three values and then we are displaying. After this, here we open the class, that here we are closing. It means that if you observe here, then three data members and two member function. Which are the data members? Register number, name and then fees. Member functions, get data and display. And the class name, here we are given as student. Then, now here we are writing the statement outside the class. For both get data as well as for display function, we are writing the statements outside the class. For that, first we have to start with the return type. In the program, whichever return type you have to start with the same one. Then here void, then class name, here we are student. Then write down the scope resolution operator, get data function. Whereas the scope resolution operator is used to define the member function outside the class. Outside the class to define the member function, we need scope resolution operator, and with that the scope resolution operator will tell you exactly that particular function belongs to which class. Then here in the output screen it will going to display enter a student register number. That is this output statement. That's why in the output screen it will display enter student register number. Then afterwards, we will input the register number. Then whatever register number you want, you can give 1, 2, 3 for example. This is a register number. Then once again, it will display enter student name in the output screen by using cout function. Then enter student name. Then afterwards, we are input the value of name. Here, the maximum number of characters for name, it will take 20 because here we are declared as 20. Then I am going to write their name is Anu. Then afterwards, enter student fees. It's an output statement. There, enter student fees. Then afterwards, enter the fees, how much you want. But while entering, it has to be in float format. 1000, 2000, 3000, how much you want, you can enter here. Here, after point, we have the fractional part. That's why we are declared as float data type. Then here we open the function and here we are closing that function. That means get data there. We are not doing any calculation. We are just input the register number, name as well as fees. But the next function, display function, that also we are displaying outside the class here. That is return type void. Then once again class name is student. Scope resolution operator, then display function. Here we are not doing any calculation, we are just displaying all the values. That is roll number equals whatever roll number here we are given, that here it will display. That is roll number is 123. Then name is Anu. Then fees is 2000. Like that it will display the result here. All the result here we will display. Then here we open display function and here we are closing that function. Next in the main program, void main, here student yes, if I am going to write, then S is the object. Here I am going to write star SP, there is a pointer object. That is one regular object and one more is pointer object. Then as usual, we have to declare the clear screen CLR SCR. This helps to clear your output screen. Then the address of, yes, we are moving to pointer object. There is a difference between star A and ampersand A. Whereas star A represent address of another variable it will stores, whereas ampersand A stores address of its own variable. Whereas here another variable address, whereas A variable address only it will stores. That's why address of yes object is transferred to pointer object. Then while calling the function, here must and should you have to use arrow operator. That is pointer object arrow get data function. Then automatically this get data function will execute. That is on the place of dot operator we are using arrow operator. And next SB arrow display function here we are calling. Here compulsory once again we have to use arrow operator when it is pointer object. Then this display function automatically it will going to execute. Then get ch helps to get the result immediately after entering input data. Then we are closing this main program. Now is it clear? It means that from this you come to know that if I want I can create pointer to object. There we are using arrow operator to display the value. Whereas in this program we are not using any calculation. We are just read the data and we are displayed. Whereas in the next class you will come to know regarding what do you mean by pointers and functions. Whereas pointer helps to store the address of another variable, whereas function means here it contains set of statements. After calculating, it will generate the result to the main program. Under that, you will study regarding how exactly pass by reference will work as well as pass by pointer. In pass by reference, how exactly it will work, how to write the program in pass by reference and how to write the program in pass by pointer. Regarding that, you will come to know in the next session. Thank you for all of you.